Hello everyone, K Kim here from Traders Club. Well, today I thought I'd do a video. I know it's been a while since I've done a video for my blog followers, and you know what? Today is a beautiful Saturday night. On my precious Saturday evening, I thought I'll find some time for you guys to share something that I found. Well, currently you're looking at IWM. This is Russell 2000 Index Fund ETF. We're looking at daily chart here. As you can see, we are looking at, you can see that my date there looks like it says June 2nd 2000. So from April 2013 we went all the way back to June 2000. So we're going to be looking at about 13 years data here, and I promise it's not going to be that long, so stay with me because I'm about to make a point here. So well, before I do that, I wanted to say this in a disclaimer that, well, there are other indexes to consider: Dow Jones, S&P 500, Nasdaq Composite, and transport. Maybe if there are a few other ones that you look at. So we're only going to be looking at Russell 2000 Index ETF. This is the only one that I'm going to look at. I'm going to try to make a point out of this index. So obviously, you know, I'm not here to tell you to buy or to go sell on this index or the whole market, but I am sharing what I found on this particular index, so that maybe in your research of market, you know, overall market, this could be some of a helpful to you, and maybe a extra research so you can able to use it as a resource. So today what we're gonna do is that, well, this is our goal, what we're going to try to establish through this video is that, well, today together what we're going to do is we're going to look for head and shoulders formation, and we're going to look at, well, how many times the last 13 years from 2000 June to today April 2013, how many times did head and shoulders formation actually formed, and how many times did it actually play out? What I mean by play out is how many times did it actually lead to a bearish reversal, at least a corrected move. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here, and I want to look at statistical status of a percentage ratio of those head and shoulders, looking at 13 years of data. And let's get to it here real quick. But before we get to it, what I want to do is, for those of you who are new to technical analysis, give you a little just basic lesson on on head and shoulders. Basically what head and shoulders is, well, you know, the definition of trend is what? Making, if it consistently make higher lows and higher highs. That is the definition of uptrend. But what happens is in some time later, it does make a higher high, but it fails to make higher low. I mean, sometimes it's a little angle up or down, but it kind of fails to make, I mean, compared to other higher lows, it failed to make, you know, same amount of higher lows. And many times a flat bottoming here, and then it attempts to go make another higher high, but it fell short very much actually, and then it creates that, for the first time out of this bullish move, it creates a first lower high, thus creating that right shoulder. And usually they line up on that left shoulder resistance level, or that level. Sometimes it's a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but it's in that vicinity. So you got that little bit less in there. And what happens is, many times, well, these are what we call neckline, and as soon as we break the neckline below that, and the reversal comes. So that's kind of how you see the confirmation of head and shoulder reversal. And sometimes what it does is just go continue. Okay, so now I want to find out when head and shoulder form and how many times it actually plays out. So let's get to it here real quick. Well, looking at this here, I don't see head and shoulders here. This looks like part of the downtrend channel, so really I don't see anything up there. But what I do see is something here. It is not perfectly formed, but it has all the criteria and the recipe that we just talked about to become head and shoulder. Well, higher lows, higher highs. What happened was it failed to make higher high, and then we made that flat bottoming, which is called neckline. Right, and then what happened was, well, here, let me draw that one more time better here, right there. That's the neckline there. That's the right shoulder. This is double head. Left. That was the left shoulder. Right shoulder. Right shoulder. Remember, failed to make higher high. It made, for the first time on this move, this is the first time they made lower high. And we did a flat bottoming here, which is equal lows. And then what happened was, we fizzled around that neckline, and that neckline sustained, held, and rejected its price. What happened next? Next was just tankage. very fast and fiercely. And that's many times what I like to say is, well, true Head and Shoulders power comes after the neckline testing. When neckline testing fails, and when the price fails to go higher, that's when the power of Head and Shoulders forms. So now we just looked at one Head and Shoulders that actually played out. So 1 out of 1. So there's a 1 played out in one of them that we looked at. Okay, so it's 1 out of 1. Let's continue to look at very fast here. Well, we also have Head and Shoulders back here. You can see it. You can definitely see it. But what happens is that, well, we had a neckline here and it came down for a little bit. But you know what I mean? It really didn't play. It didn't lead to much. It just kind of held a little bit. It went higher. So we did have Head and Shoulders here, but it doesn't seem like they actually played out. I mean, it played out in a sense of a short-term kind of thing here, but that really didn't seem like, you know what I mean, that didn't like Head and Shoulders. I mean, at least maybe here, somewhere here, that would be a Head and Shoulders. But you know, so I'm gonna say we did have a Head and Shoulder formation, but it never played out. So now we have a, well, 1 out of 2. Okay, so 1 out of 2. 1 time played out of 2 times that it formed. Let's continue with our research here. This one has a great Head and Shoulders formation as well. This is like a double left shoulder head, double right shoulder kind of thing going on here. This was a neckline. You can see a neckline there, and it, you know what I mean, broke the neckline. Look at that. I mean, that thing just tanked very fast. So if you knew how to trade these Head and Shoulders, were you able to make some profit here? Yeah. I mean, even here it didn't play out. At least you got a little bit. You know what I mean? So now how many do we have? So we just looked at total 3 Head and Shoulders, right? But 2 of them played out. So 2 out of 3. I'm gonna write it down so I'm not miscounting it. Let's continue with our research. Continue with our research here. Well, I see something here. What I see is this right here. Though it was after a downtrend line, but I liked how steep a move that it came down here, and it does have criteria of higher lows here and higher highs. What happened is we failed to make another higher high, and we kind of flat bottom here, and so that kind of put into that Head and Shoulder category. Though happening in the bottom downtrend, it kind of loses a lot of its potency, but nonetheless it's still still Head and Shoulders. What happened was left shoulder, right shoulder, and then there was a neckline here. We quite couldn't get up to the neckline, kind of went into the vicinity, and then we had a pretty good size of a correcting move there. So that's another Head and Shoulders. So we got total 3 out of 4. So 3 out of 4. 4 occurrences, 3 times played out. Let's continue. Well, we had another one, didn't it? See that there? Neckline broken. That's a pretty good size. That's about a month worth of bearishness coming into the market there. So now we have 4 times that I played out of 5 occurrences. Let's continue. This is a beautiful inverted Head and Shoulders here. Neckline broken. This thing continued there. But we're not looking at inverted Head and Shoulders. We're only looking at bearish Head and Shoulder. This is a bullish inverted Head and Shoulders. But so we're not going to count that. Okay. And you could say that, well, this kind of looks like Head and Shoulder. Well, it really isn't, because let's look at the size of the neckline. That's actually pretty steep. Or, the angle of that thing there. I mean, anything, it just looks like continue to make, this is a part of, continue to make higher lows there. And this kind of actually looks like a part of this big trend going, or this channel going on here. So that's kind of part of this channel there. So I'm not gonna, I don't think that that's Head and Shoulders there. Definitely we have some kind of channeling going on there. Well, we do have a formation of Head and Shoulders here. Also the neckline perfectly there. Well, this was a little, you know what? Yep, you know what? This one does have the criteria of Head and Shoulders, because of the size of its, looks like part of this kind of a downtrend this broadening channel thing there. It actually looks like part of it, so I'm gonna just say this wasn't a head and shoulder formation. I'm gonna dismiss that one. Well, this one kind of do look like head and shoulder, but we never formed the right shoulder. Okay, doesn't have the right shoulder formation, so this kind of continued. We never had the right shoulder formation, so this is not head and shoulders formation. We don't have anything here. Look at that beautiful, perfectly defined inverted head and shoulders. If you knew, I mean, if you only buying stocks, if you all you knew was just able to identify this. I mean, we only looked at 2 inverted head and shoulders played out every time. I mean, just a neckline here, you get in on the break of the neckline, and look at that. But that's not gonna, well, that's not what we're looking after. So let's see. There's no head and shoulders here. You know what? We're missing something in the big picture. That's what's happening here. We're missing in a big picture. Aha. Okay, this is what I want you to see. It might not hard to see, but left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Remember? Failed to make higher high, flat bottoming. Failed to make higher low. Okay? That's all the criteria. However, if you're looking at big picture, look at that head and shoulders. I mean, this was a market crash back in 2007, 8, 9. See that? The neckline. But there's pretty much there's about 2 head and shoulders here in a big scale, but I'm only going to count it as 1. So total 6 and 5. Okay? So we had basically 5 times it played out head and shoulders out of 6 times it has formed. I mean, this is 2, but I'm only going to count as 1. I mean, look at that. Look at the size of that thing. Look at this inverted head and shoulders here. Nice, right? So let's continue here with our research. We do have head and shoulders here again. Right here. Right there. You can see they built that right shoulder. Neckline, double right shoulders there. But what happened? Neckline was never broken, and it continues. So this is head and shoulders formation, which never played out because it came down to the neckline. It came down to the neckline, and it, you know what I mean? It never broke below the neckline. Does this head and shoulder never confirmed? However, there's a formation there, so I'm going to count it as 1 that never played out. So we have a 7, but only 5 times played out. So 5 out of 7 so far. Well, let's continue here. What do we got here? We have also another head and shoulders here. See that? And then in a big scale, we got that. Look at that move. There's a neckline there. Remember? Failed to make higher high. Remember? Failed to make higher high. So, but I'm only going to count as 1. So far we have a 6 out of 8. Okay? 6 out of 8. Out of 8. So 8 occurrences, 6 times played out. Okay, with another, inverted head and shoulders here. A little choppy back here, but definitely centimeters broke the neckline. Continue, but that's not what we're looking for. We have another head and shoulders here. This is pretty well defined here. Neckline went back down. So 7 out of 9 played out. So this is definitely played out here. Some good sizable bounce there, or the corrective move there. This one, look at that, another inverted head and shoulders, and this turned out to be pretty good too, huh? And the inverted head and shoulder, it seems like on IWM it plays out every time. Every time I see inverted head and shoulders, it seems like it always plays out. So that's one. So we still got 7 out of 9. This one, not really. This one, I mean, you could, yeah, this one more like a, just really falling channel here. So that, I don't really call that a, head and shoulders there. I mean, you could say this was head and shoulder, but this never came down to make the right shoulder. So this was kind of a didn't complete, so that's not there. So now we're today, right? This is where we are. And what I wanted to look at is that, well, what are we doing here? I mean, what are we forming here, right? That's the big question. Are we forming another Head and Shoulders K? Well, here's the thing about this Head and Shoulders. It's a little bit freaky because it's kind of deformed. And lately with the unthinkables happening, all this volatility happening, and you've seen the market doing some freaky stuff, and so we created this monsters and this freaky Head and Shoulders here because, well, what is this? I mean, this is left shoulder, this is head, this is right shoulder, and something else coming out. What the heck? It's like freaky, right? But have we seen this somewhere? Have we seen that? Okay, I think I have. So take a mental note of that right there, especially on that little weird, odd, it's not right shoulder, it's not head, I don't know what I am kind of thing there. I'm just going to move my rectangle here, so move it with me. I'm just going to place it here. No, it's not the same. I'm going to move it here. Whoa, look at that. So with a left shoulder, right shoulder, and with a little freaky thing happening here, went back up and then came down with the neckline testing here. And you know what, it wasn't it wasn't a steep decline. Nonetheless, we had some bearish sentiment coming in here, but it was trying to get back up, and what happened was, well, this happened. So I mean, even if Head and Shoulders is pretty dangerous, even if it doesn't play out, you gotta be careful. You gotta make sure this makes a higher high, unless if you continue to travel below this head level, you can say that bears are still lingering around here. So we've seen that happening before, which I'm not gonna go right now. So there's a one deformed guy there. Let's go back today. Well, that's the guy. So here's the thing. We come down here. This is a neckline, left shoulder. Let's look at that as a head. If this thing starts to come down here, and we find support and continue higher, then this Head and Shoulder never played out. But if it goes below the neckline, breaks the neckline, then we can expect some downside. However, I'm not gonna count this one as Head and Shoulders because it's still in progress. So how many? Remember the numbers that I said before? We said what? We looked at 9 formations, and how many of them really played out of those 9? 7 out of 9 that played out. Looking at what? 13 years of data. Okay, we just looked at from June 2000 till today, April 2013, and we saw 9 Head and Shoulders formation, not including those double Head and Shoulder formation that we saw, like the wide scale, the narrow scale. We only count those as 1, so we're being pretty generous with this number. And you know what's the percentage here? So 77 percentile statistically, 13 years. So what I'm saying is, if this Head and Shoulders starts to come down, we start to form Head and Shoulders like formation, we stop at the neckline. What I'm saying is, there is 77.77% that this Head and Shoulder is going to play out. We're going to have pretty steep decline, probably back to about 84 to fill this gap. That's what I'm saying. And it's not 100%. Maybe there is a chance that 23% a chance that it could go higher. But you know what I mean? I'm just stating the facts and looking at 13 years of data. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying that you should sell or buy, but I'm saying that that's what I found on the Russell 2000 Index Fund for looking at the 13 years of data. So, well, hopefully this has been somewhat of a helpful video to you and in your trading. And so maybe coming week, or maybe weeks and months, maybe this analysis, this research haven't found a good spot in your analysis, and you can able to take heed in some of these warning signs that we are seeing here. So again, well, we're only looking at IWM here, so there are other indexes to consider, but definitely when we're looking at Russell 2000 Index Fund ETF, there are warning signs. And if this week If this week start coming down here and we stop at the neckline by Friday, and we're looking next, what's going to happen is that, well, if we start breaching the neckline coming below here, I do expect some more bearishness to come in 77.77% chances that it's going to happen, because 7 out of 9 times when these head and shoulders formation happens, it plays out. So have a great night, everyone. I hope to talk to you next week, and thank you very much for tuning in today. Talk to you.